Hello YouTube, this is Sibbles and Bits here with, I'm not necessarily going to call it a build guide, I'm going to call it more of a build discussion. Lots of people have been hitting me up on the DMs in Discord, a couple people in the YouTube comments, and they've been asking me what I think the best, like, X, Y, or Z deck is. And it's always hard for me to answer that, but I figured what I could at least do is discuss my Nightmare Pub deck and how I came up with it, the reasoning behind it, to sort of help you guys come to the conclusion on what is your best deck. Because I'm not going to come up here and tell you that this is absolutely the best deck. Go ahead, copy this, it's going to win you all your runs. The best deck in this game is the deck that you enjoy playing. And that comes across in a number of variables. Are you in a pre-made? Are you in pubs? What character are you playing? What's your preferred method of medical? I talk a lot to a lot of different people about like how to improve their medical builds, what they think about certain medical cards, and I have discussions with a lot of people. And the one thing that I've noticed, especially in medical cards in general, I honestly feel that there's a couple of medical cards that are obviously not as good as the others. But I honestly don't think that there's any dead medical cards. And even if you start getting into like the minutia of stuff like Inspiring Sacrifice versus maybe even group therapy, there's a whole bunch of interesting decisions that goes into what your medical deck looks like. And to me, that's probably one of the best things about this game, is just discussing with people and having a discussion with them about, okay, you scale healing efficiency. What is the worst thing that can happen to you that will give you a bad day? Okay, you take miraculous recovery. Are you playing a specific way that you feel like miraculous recovery is giving you more or less benefits? How's it been working for you overall? What are some things that you would say has to get paired with or would never get paired with miraculous recovery? And everybody's able to hold an interesting discussion about it. And so again, like, I prefer Support Scav. If you come into a match, you take Doc, and all of a sudden you hit me with the Doc Band-Aid, and I suddenly heal for 60 health on map 2, I'm not sitting there thinking like, okay, why is this Doc scaling healing efficiency? That doesn't make any sense. The most important thing is that you're playing a build that you feel is good, you're comfortable with, and then I would say that the most important thing is that you're actually performing your role. Because if you are playing, air quotes, the best medical build, and you're not having any fun, legitimately, why are you playing the game? That's just my opinion anyways. Coming up with a build that you enjoy playing takes a lot of iteration in this game. And I try to get all the facts out there so that people can decide for themselves what is or is not good. And again, this deck here complements my preferred style of playing the game. It is Nightmare only. Generally with pubs, I haven't actually made a pre-made deck. I probably should. I have more medical cards in here than I would generally recommend because, well, I'm sure you guys have played in pubs. And having this number of cards has shown me the most relative form of success. Like, I'm sure you guys have been watching the videos. Don't always make it very far. I try to keep people alive as long as possible. Generally speaking, it's not a method of I ran out of heals to heal people. It's that a huge mistake happens and completely wipes the team. Or somebody makes a mistake, they're out, now we're down to 3 people. I generally have heals on hand, and generally the health items will last us till the end of the stage, which is exactly what I want. A lot of people, they'll ask for my build, and then they'll take a look at it and they'll be like, well, my build doesn't look like your build, or why don't you take X, Y, and Z? Again, it's important to state that preferences and environment are going to affect how your build looks. As an overall idea of medical, I would say that there are 3 starters, and I say starters because, first off, when you start the run, you only have access to like 2 to 5 cards, so you have to, air quotes, start as a medical build. Not necessarily. Some people like to add a little bit of damage, a little bit of mobility in there. Again, that's up to you. Another thing is that just the general idea of them is a good starting point for you to start working on molding and altering your build into something that you want. Those 3 starters, in my opinion, is Scavenger, which is pretty much focused on removing yourself from the economy and just finding everything you need in the level and making those heals, making many heals as good as possible. There is Economy, which you may not even consider it a medical build at all, but maybe you have 1 or 2 cards that help it out. And it's more about getting, well, copper. You can argue that Support Scavenger is an economy card, but when I refer to economy, I'm talking about copper, right? You have Copper Scav, you've got Share the Wealth, and your whole idea is, I'm going to buy whatever I need, and if I don't need it, money's everything, so then I can support the team in that way. And the third build would be Healing Efficiency. Healing Efficiency is probably the best it's ever been in the game. I feel like I say that every patch. But legitimately, even though you've got cards like Group Therapy, you got cards like Poultice, and even to an extent Amped Up, Healing Efficiency still has advantages and disadvantages to the other styles of healing, and I would not fault somebody if they said that that was their preferred method. Now, obviously, when you start looking at a complete build, they more so start to look the same. I might be starting with Support Scavenger, but I may decide to grab a little bit of economy later to help me pick up a couple of upgrades. I might be going into Healing Efficiency later because I decide that what I want to do is scale Group Therapy. Again, when I refer to a starter, it's more like how you're starting your deck, and it's a good starting point. And in order to go into why I choose Support Scavenger, or the Scavenger style as my starter, I have to bring up some other data here. Okay. So, this is a Excel spreadsheet, obviously, of a series of 10 run tests that I did in 1-1 Resurgence on Recruit. And my aims of this was to figure out exactly, like, look into how spawning works, like, does the game have a certain amount of budget? How is it choosing to spawn things? Where is it choosing to spawn things? And it's very incomplete, but I was able to garner a lot of data out of this. Ignore the highlights, that's just me looking at outliers here. The first 10 runs are my control runs. The next 10 runs were my runs with Support Scav. And the last 10 runs were my runs with Ammo Scav. And I'll leave that here for a bit so that you can take a look at it, maybe even pause it. But a couple important things to note here. All this data is technically invalidated. Reason number 1, as you can see, this was done back in before the December patch. Razor Wire is in the offensive slot. I don't think that that necessarily means that big a deal. I think that that just means that Razor Wire is taking up points from quick items instead of offensive items, which means that you're technically seeing more Flash Molotov frags, etc., etc. That may not actually be the case, though. I haven't done any tests since. Another reason why this isn't validated, it was recently brought to our attention that supply crates and prepper stashes are separate from the budget that's given to the map. So that means that of all these items here, wouldn't be ammo piles. Any of these things right here, your actual accessories, I have more listed than you would actually find. I also have listed here what's in the prepper stash, but I know for a fact that I can partition these out later because I still have the footage, hopefully, and that's not really much of a concern to me. And I also know that 3 of these copper piles and 1 accessory is guaranteed because of the prepper stash. But again, regardless, just take note here that the med items that we're going to be looking at are actually going to end up much less than they would appear in an actual match, because I counted supply crates and this is on recruit. And we already know that there's less copper piles as you go up in difficulty. My guess is that there's also going to be less items. Maybe not significantly less med items, but again, it's still going to happen. I'm going to go over to here. What we have here is a count up of all the runs. Blue, of course, being bandages. Orange, of course, being pain meds. And then the gray here is med kits. We've got our control group, of which I was able... Well, the main reason why I was doing this was to figure out if defibs actually do spawn more when you have support scav. And the short answer to that, in case you were wondering here, it does look like the bar's actually going up, but that's not exactly how this... It's not exactly how this works, because it wasn't increased to a degree that would suggest that it is being increased with this sample size. Anyways, I'm digressing. My main point that I'm looking at here is that on average, you're going to find about 8 med items. If you haven't seen a box and whisker plot before, what this is basically looking at here is we're again looking at blue for bandages, and this is the range at which you can find, bandages. This is the range at which you can find bandages. However, each of these sections, this whisker here, this box here, this box here, and this whisker up here, is 25% of all the outcomes of that data set. And the X is your average. So what we're seeing here is that 50% of the time you're going to find more than 4 bandages, and 50% of the time you're going to find less than 4 bandages, but at least 2. And then for each of these, the reason why these don't have whiskers is because all of the data was here. So a great example is the medkit one only goes up to 1 because we never found more than 1. But yet we can still have an average that is obviously less than 1. Down here, we had 1 instance of 2 medkits. Therefore, I was able to put a little whisker up on there. So my main point for showing this before I go into the build and explaining why I play a support or support scav as my starter is because we have this one data point right here, which is 3 items, period, on recruit, counting supply crates and the prepper stash. If I was to go into pubs on Nightmare, this would be absolutely unacceptable, and it is possible. You might be saying, well, Bits, that's only like 10% of the time. Yeah, how many maps do you run in in a run in this. There's at least 10 maps. And the further you go, the more important it is for you to have health items, because enemies are going to scale and deal more damage. And you might be thinking, okay, that's only 1 out of 10. We also had an instance while running Ammo Scav where we had 3, 4 items. And as I said, this is absolutely unacceptable. Even if you consider Doc, with her, she's basically Support Scav Light, right? She has access to 3 bandages that are always right rarity every single map. And that's part of the main draw of taking Doc from me, besides obviously, like, as I said before the game came out, I just love her character and I'm going to keep playing as her, right? But it's incredibly potent that she gets access to 3 more heals than literally anybody else. Her healing efficiency it's honestly whatever, as far as I'm concerned. When pubs go ahead and they heal themselves, or like res people, if there's absolutely nothing going on, they should let me revive them, because I revive them with another 10% HP, or I heal them for another 20%. But honestly, 20% on bandages and pills, like who cares, right? And also, I have Support Scav, so I'm going to be finding, again, on average, theoretically, 6 items plus 4 from Support Scav. Yeah, go ahead, use 1 bandage on yourself. It's almost a drop in the bucket, right? So going back here, that's the primary reason why I am going to be choosing to go the Support Scav route. I refuse to have a bad seed, and Support Scavenger, adding 4 guaranteed items to the map, just means that, worst case scenario, I have a good roll on med items and I have way too many. I would much rather have that than have to go through, say, I don't know, Hinterlands with only 3 med items. That would be completely suffer. And also, again, the environment that I'm playing in is Nightmare Pubs. When I'm playing this with a organized group, like if you've seen me play with my runs where I'm playing with Cheeky's crew, I literally have too many of these, and I'm giving people flu shots just to heal with trauma with Field Surgeon and like splash everybody with group therapy. And again, I would rather have too much heals than not enough. Because in my opinion, the medical role to me is, it's my job to not have stats in the early game and keep everybody else alive long enough to where they reach the end game and nothing can kill us but us, and then they get to carry me for the rest of the game. That might be a flawed way of thinking about it, and that would give you very good insight onto why I choose what I choose. So that's why I take Support Scavenger. Needs and Many is pretty much a given in any medical deck, especially in pubs. Since I'm not Mom, I don't have access to the extra team life, so I have to take Needs and Many. Why do I have to take Needs and Many? Again, I'm sure most of you guys have played pubs. Nobody takes Needs and Many because it's always somebody else's job, and everybody's looking to the medic. And even if they're not even necessarily looking to the medic, they just want someone else to grab it, I'll go ahead and I'll be that person and I'll grab it. Group therapy. Lots of people ask me why I don't take Poultice. Poultice is still good. But again, in my environment, group therapy is very good when everyone's taking bad damage, right? Everybody's taking 10 damage, everybody's taking 15 damage. Maybe people are just getting clanked by acid and they take, like, I don't know, 5 damage. Group therapy is able to, in my opinion, save more med items than Poultice is. But again, if in your environment you're playing in a pre-made, you've got the melee up front just tanking everything, putting all the damage into 1 health bar, Poultice is incredibly great. In fact, again, Poultice is very good. But in my environment, group therapy is just hands down much better. You can also argue that if you're going the route of scaling healing efficiency, group therapy can be scaled by healing efficiency, whereas poultice can't. Obviously, I'm not going that route, and I'm just taking it because there's tons of bad damage in pubs. Field Surgeon. Since this card was changed, it's been pretty polarizing in the community, and I've even had people come up to me and ask, do you actually think that Field Surgeon could ever be useful? And as you can see here, I honestly think it does. However, the only time that I think that Field Surgeon is incredibly good is with multiple support scavs or support scav and doc. Because again, doc being support scav light, I'm now getting with support scav and doc, even if I leave the safe room with no med items, nobody drops me anything, nothing spawns on the map for some reason. I have had my a couple of maps where I think that that's happened, but obviously you can't prove it when you have support scav, right? And I very easily could have just missed support items, which is kind of hard to believe when you have support scavenger on. Regardless, that is 7 hits of Field Surgeon, at least, guaranteed. That equals, with Field Surgeon, 21 trauma healed. And you're putting it in the life bars that are actually taking damage. So it's, in my opinion, a little bit more practical than, say, Safe Room Recovery. Now, Safe Room Recovery also heals a little bit in the safe room. It gives 7 to everybody. Again, it's basically an FAC split 4 ways every stage. It's incredibly good. I'm not saying that, again, I'm not saying that Field Surgeon is better, hands down, than Safe Room Recovery. In this setup, I think it's more useful to me than Safe Room Recovery is. Plus, it also gives a pub the opportunity of grabbing Safe Room Recovery because those don't stack. So now I don't have to worry about, oh, okay, did I waste a card and slow down my build technically trying to grab Safe Room Recovery when I'm pretty sure no one else is grabbing Field Surgeon. Again, it would not make sense unless you're taking support scav in your dog. Or you know that there's 2 support scavs in the game.
Can't believe I sold out of those.
And we were just talking about the minimum, right? We can guarantee 7 hits. That's 21 trauma healed. That means that we only have to find 2 med items on the map, and we're technically safe from recovery without the ammo. Most maps you find more than 2 items. Just saying. And I have all of these cards pretty much listed in the order that I would like to take them. Obviously, again, if there's a mom in the game, I will skip Needs of Many. And then as soon as that mom rage quits, I'm ready to pick up that Needs of Many again. Because, again, that happens. Then I would probably go for group therapy for the better heals. I don't think that you need any trauma heal map 1, but maybe you do, in which case I might grab Field Surgeon. The other thing that I definitely stress to people is not only ordering according to, you know, where you're going to hit certain things in the act, right? You've got Handyman on map 2, so you might want to have some sort of mobility or ammo by that point. You're going to have the bridge in the crossing in Act 1 on map 4, which technically have the same amount of cards, so you'd put your mobility card in about the same spot. And so you need to think about things that are in the campaign that are going to give you issues, and when about then you might need them. But also the most important thing that I stress to people is the starting hand, especially in pubs. I have So Support Scavenger's always taken. So I will have access to slot 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. My next 5 cards. And in here, I have Needs of Many, which is almost instant pick, as I mentioned before. If there's a mom in the game, I'll go ahead and skip it until she rage quits, because most of the time they are going to rage quit. And then as soon as they rage quit, next chance I get, we're grabbing Needs of Many, because we need that life. Again, need is probably a bit of a rough word to throw in there. But again, you're in pubs, people aren't coordinated. People are going to get downed all the time. You got all those people who just decide to stare down a bruiser and they just take 68 damage for free. The Needs of Many is the difference between having another gun and having to wait for a pod or a respawn point in order to get that gun back. I have Group Therapy, which is technically my preferred first card because, again, I think that extends your healing quite significantly. And then I want Field Surgeon available just in case I have to start spot healing some trauma. Cross Trainers is there because it's my primary mobility card. Mag Carrier is there because it's my primary damage and ammo card. Then the next map, which is probably, again, going to be either Handyman or most people like to fight the Ogre on 1-2. So then I have access to Shredder so that I can help the team do more damage in those scenarios. But this starting hand pretty much has everything that I'm looking to have. I could do without medical professional. I could do without experienced EMT. I don't need any of this stuff straight away. But I need this stuff at some point in the game. I might sit on, again, if there's a mom in the game, I might sit on Needs of Many to the end of the match. But generally speaking, I'm not going to sit on Group Therapy. I'm not going to sit on Field Surgeon because these combo with my Support Scavenger strategy. And then Cross Trainers I honestly take for the stamina regen. Movement speed's nice. It also gives health, which, as everybody who's actually talked to me on the Discord knows, I am a noted HP respecter. Any chance of health that I can squeeze out of any build, I'll do it. Again, Mag Carrier. So obviously, if you're weapon agnostic or you prefer using a different weapon, this card can change. But again, this is my ammunition / damage card, which, making sure that you meet your breakpoints on commons, is technically an ammo card. So you might choose to go for Shell Carrier. This might be Ammo Belt for you. Ammo Belt's very good. This might even be On Your Mark, if that's how your squad plays, right? Cross Trainers, you might decide that that's too slow for you. You might take Fleet of Foot or Mad Dash here. Again, it's very important that you're taking the build and molding it to how you like to play. I don't like to move that fast. I'm more of what I call a slow runner. I'm more focused on utilizing spawn blocking to make sure that specials don't spawn next to me. That way I don't have to run. My team gets the most amount of time to fire down and just burst down the specials, assuming that they're paying attention. And my whole job that I like to do is I like to utilize SMGs because I feel that they are the best horde clearing weapon in the game. And they have a lot of ammo, and pubs don't always like to share ammo. And to that point, I may actually opt out of Mag Carrier if I get a Green Rarity SMG or M9 Beretta, and I feel like I'm on top of my breakpoint on commons, and pubs are sharing ammo. I'm going to say, okay, I don't need Mag Carrier right now, so I'm going to hold off on that until later. That puts me straight into Shredder. Maybe people are still getting downed, and so then I can grab Inspiring Sacrifice. I can grab these other cards that are going to help us out. And I think ordering your deck to where you have cards that you're willing to skip over is also incredibly important, because it'll allow you to have, say, I'm on map 4, right? And I've already taken these 3 cards. I have Field Surgeon, Cross Trainers, Mag Carrier, Shredder, and Inspiring Sacrifice. if I already have my, like I said before, right? I have my breakpoint on commons, so I'm saving a lot of ammo. We're sharing ammo, so ammo's not a concern. I can grab Shredder and just help my team do more damage. There's no reason for me to grab Mag Carrier at that point. Maybe people are still getting down despite me having pretty much my full medical package. Maybe I need to grab Inspiring Sacrifice instead. Being able to read the environment, read the run, and pivot accordingly, I think is a very important skill, especially when you're in this sort of a support role. Going into Shredder, a lot of people will say that, well, again, if you're not using SMGs, LMGs, or shotguns, you probably don't use Shredder. But this is team damage. If you're not concerned about team damage because you're like, okay, well, the shotgun build should be grabbing Shredder anyways. They don't really stack. And so I'll just hope that the shotgunner does have Shredder. And I'd rather not waste the card. You can fire on other things other than the other person who has Shredder. I don't think that having 2 Shredders on the team is a bad gig. And again, it's sort of that idea of I would rather have a Shredder and have 2 Shredders than not have a Shredder. Because that's so much damage for the whole team. Again, this could be marked for death if you feel like that is better. Inspiring Sacrifice, I think it's definitely not as good as Amped Up. So if you were to try and copy this build and you're wondering where the hell Amped Up is, I guess I can talk about that even. So Amped Up is kind of hot right now. I don't think I need to tell anybody that. The reason why I don't take Amped Up is because, again, I'm in pubs. Everybody in pubs thinks that Amped Up is the best card that's ever been made, so they have it in their deck. Amped Up stacks. That's not the reason why I don't take it. But if 2 people have Amped Up, every horde that triggers, you're going to get 50 THP. And I already am generally keeping people healthy. A lot of times, Amped Up procs off, and they don't even get the 25 health. So why am I going to add another stack onto that if almost everybody has this? If you were in a pre-made, yes, I could see the medic taking Amped Up. But then again, anybody could take Amped Up. That way, someone takes Amped Up, someone takes On Your Mark, someone takes Needs of Many, and you have all of the good support cards split out so that they're available right off the gate. And that's another thing to consider when you're in a pre-made. Maybe someone takes Support Scavenger off you, someone takes Needs of Many off of you, someone takes maybe even Inspiring Sacrifice. And so what does that do? You're now down to 1, 2, 3. Maybe you don't even like experience EMT 4. You're down to like 4 to 5, maybe 6 cards. And the rest of those get to become stats. And all your other teammates had to do was choose to play as Mom, take Support Scav, maybe someone took Inspiring Sacrifice. They all had to take 1 card each, and now you actually have a functional member of the team much sooner. Because when you take a look at what I have here, where are my stats? I have cross trainers for my air quotes mobility, and there's a little bit of health in there. Mag Carrier and Shredder on my damage. And experienced EMT is a little bit more health and stamina, so my mobility. Then I've got cold brew coffee. Those are my stats. In a pre-made, if you can take just one of these cards off of your medic and share the load, that's 3 cards that I could be putting into defense, I could be putting into damage. Maybe I choose to turn it around and I'm like, okay, well, if you guys are going to take say Support Scavenger, I'll go ahead, I'll take surplus pouches. That way everybody has more grenades. I've always been a big fan of Inspiring Sacrifice ever since the launch of the game. Again, in my environment of pubs, people are going down all the time. But this is basically poultice mixed with group therapy. Someone goes down, and you've got 60 healing across the team. I'm not going to sound like a broken record and talk about necromancy, but you can also utilize this in other ways to get that extra little heal out of it. But again, if you don't believe in Inspiring Sacrifice, you'd rather have Amped Up, it's perfectly understandable. Medical Professional is pretty much considered by everybody to be mandatory as far as being able to restore the life and turning first aids into FACs and defibrillators into first aids. If I notice that people are going down a lot, I'll definitely take this. In my pre-made, I will often not take this because it's not necessary. So I could see this card being taken out too, especially if you're already utilizing Field Surgeon in a scavenger setup. It's just that sometimes I need that little extra oomph in order to keep people in the fight longer, and so I'm willing to take Medical Professional. Again, in the environment, most people will buy med kits and keep them on themselves, and they'll drop them for you to use. So I don't even have to worry about buying the med kits. Everyone's doing that for me, and I would almost even say that in a pre-made, you would want to try and keep that going as well. Experienced EMT, now obviously it's been nerfed, it's nowhere near as good as it was, but it's 10% max health, and it's the only health scaling that we have in the game. It's not a bad buff, and in this setup where I am playing Support Scavenger on dock, it's pretty much free. This is mandatory PT mixed with well-fed, except it's most of the time better. Cold brew coffee, I think, is probably, if you're going for horde clear and being a medic, I think this is just absolute must pick. It's got reload speed to increase your uptime. It's got aim speed for accuracy. It's got weapon swap speed so that you can switch to your bandages if you have to in a moment's notice, and some use speed in order to make using those bandages or whatever you're doing slightly faster. Fanny pack, I'm obviously, this one will, these three cards down here will actually switch according to my mood. They're probably the most malleable cards that I have in the deck. This will usually be one of the slot cards. Right now it's Fanny Pack because I'm enjoying the extra trauma resist, but I could also see the argument of both the double shoulder bag, especially because, again, I don't mind having less movement speed, so it really doesn't matter to me. I just generally don't feel like I have the need to carry extra slots. I would also highly recommend, if you don't believe in Fanny Pack, Box of Bags is honestly probably better, 100%. Again, talking about pubs, people will go ahead, they'll buy the med kits for you, they'll keep them on themselves. If you have Box of Bags, you don't really care about the one slot necessarily if you're going scav route, but you have access to it, and then everybody can carry 2 med kits, which allows them to make more mistakes, and generally makes the run a little bit more consistent. I'm probably being very, selfish by taking Fanny Pack instead of Box of Bags. And the reason why I have this lower in the deck is because generally Box of Bags would be about actually where Experienced EMT is. It'd be at about 10. And the idea is that as a scav doc, I don't necessarily need slots, like I said before, but generally speaking, whenever med slots come up, everyone's going to buy it. But sometimes you're never offered medical slots. And so that's why I would say Box of Bags would be pretty good about right here. If you get scuffed by RNG, you can go ahead, you can use Box of Bags and give everybody more heals on a particularly difficult map. Otherwise, if it shows up early in the run, nobody has their economy in line, I'll honestly tell people to grab anything but medical slots. I would much rather them upgrade rarity or grab grenade slots than medical slots. If I have too many heals and no one can pick them up, I'm going to use them for Field Surgeon, quite honestly. So everybody being able to carry all their meds, yeah, it makes us a little bit more reliable, but I would much rather be healing that trauma, mainly because this is my preferred method of healing trauma. And as far as like wanting everybody to grab grenades instead of grabbing med slots, prevention is the best medicine, and all of the offensive items are super good. Giving everybody access to one grenade slot is almost insurmountably better than giving everybody a medical slot, in my opinion. And again, combat medic, rousing speech get tossed around a lot. Combat medic, if I'm having to scoop up pubs a lot, it also gives me use speed, which means that it's pretty good on Act 1 where you've got lots of actions that you have to take. And then the extra 20 health, since I'm not scaling healing efficiency, that extra 20 health on, say, a blue defib, that'll pretty much take care of us. They're not full health when they get revived, but they're pretty close. Actually, with Doc's 20%, they would pretty much... It'd be at 72% plus 20. So unless they have over 100 health after being incapped, yeah, they're going to be full. So that's why I prefer combat medic. And then again, the use speed is generally very good. Saves a lot of time. When you're healing people, you and that person are running slower. And so it just keeps you guys moving throughout the map a little bit better. Rousing speech is the one card I tell people not to take unless they have a very good reason for it. As I mentioned before, offensive accessories are almost better than medical accessories. I think offensive slots are better than medical slots, but I wouldn't quite go as... It's actually quite difficult. Again, if you can just grenade a problem, or flashbang the entire field, or flashbang a boss so that it doesn't call a horde, what bad damage are you going to take in that scenario? So, by disabling your offensive accessories, you are now removing your ability to control the battlefield. But the 20% reduced in-cap trauma is sometimes incredibly helpful if pubs, again, like near the end of the map, everyone's still struggling. I might take this because I feel like it is the only way that we're ever going to make it out of here. And again, this can be skipped. If everyone's doing fine, I'll just keep this in my hand. The other one I said I'd keep in my hand needs a mini. Maybe medical professional. So the other thing is I think that it's perfectly fine to have cards in your deck that you may not necessarily take. Because after you draw past your deck, you get access to the intel. Now, stamina intel is the first one. I wouldn't necessarily say that that is one that I would value very highly, especially because I've already gone out of my way for experienced EMT and cross trainers. But maybe you do actually want stamina intel. But after that one, you get the HP intel, and that one I value incredibly highly. So if I don't take rousing speech, I don't take medical professional for some reason, right? And I don't take needs of many, I'm actually able to take 2 5 health, which then goes into experienced EMT, which isn't a big deal. It's 10% extra, so it's 11 health. I get 11 health at the end of the match when everything's doing more damage, which extends my one-shot window and prevents me from just going down because of one mistake. And again, I rate that very highly as a noted HP respecter. Now, that means that if I feel like rousing speech isn't going to be in my deck, I could put in something like vitamins, I could put in something like a motorcycle jacket, something to increase my durability. I could even throw in well-fed in there, which is basically equivalent to 2 health intels for the whole team, right? It's a team HP upgrade. Well-fed is also very good. And then, of course, I have Charitable Soul. I have access to this usually about map 8. When things really start getting dicey, you usually start seeing... You may not necessarily, but sometimes you're seeing Monstrous at that point. And so, if I'm taking a little bit of bad damage, someone's taking a lot of bad damage, I heal them, I get 50%. This could theoretically be higher up, but I just feel... I feel like I need the rest of these in pubs. It might be that if I was to actually make a pre-made deck, which I should, Charitable Soul would be higher, because it would definitely save more healing items than, say... Well, group therapy also helps, but it would save more than, say, like 50% healing efficiency, because I'd have to use items on myself less. Anyways, I hope that wasn't long and rambling, but again, just going over with you guys, first off, what my pub deck is, a little bit about why everything's ordered where it is, why I take specific cards, to sort of get you guys in the mindset of looking at what your decks are like, maybe the influences of how you're playing the game, who you're playing the game with, and who you're playing the game as, right? Because if I was, say, Carly or Mom or even Walker, a lot of these cards might change. Like I said, if you're not playing Doc or going Support Scavenger, there's no reason to grab Field Surgeon, in my opinion. So then you would probably replace this with Save from Recovery. Or you might put Medical Professional higher. And since you're not doing Support Scav, maybe you throw in some money here so that you're able to buy and use medkits, buy and use FACs. Again, I hope the one thing that I was able to convey here is that I don't feel like there is a one-size-fits-all to decks, especially in the medical department. Damage you can kind of break down into a flowchart, I think. But there's always interesting trade-offs and choices to make in medical. And I think that that's, again, like breaking down and making your deck and finally getting it to where it feels good is probably one of the best things about this game, in my opinion. Especially if it's a team deck and everyone's taking specific things to help each other out. Maybe you realize that you don't need X or Y because you guys already take care of that. Like, say, ammo. We don't need to take ammo cards. All we need is one on your mark and everything's solved. So then everybody frees up one ammo card in their deck and then they're able to throw something else in there. I think that the deck iteration, and especially as more cards come out, like taking a look at the new cards, does this actually replace anything in my deck? Is there reasons why I would take this new card over cards that I already have? I think that that's very interesting and probably is going to be one of the main reasons why I stick with the game, besides obviously the fact that it's really fun, in my opinion. Like, I get very salty during my pub matches, but I mean, now that I don't play MOBAs, I need a little bit of salt in my life, I guess. Anyways, hopefully that wasn't long and rambling too much. If you have any questions, feedback, anything that you want to point out, go ahead and put it down in the comments below. Until next time, I'll catch you guys around.